Hello, welcome to another How to Code Well web chat. My name is Peter Fisher, and today I would like to focus on the US election, 2016 presidential election. But I certainly don't want to have a discussion, a political discussion. I want to talk about the implications for web development, the web, and how that was used, how the web was used to promote themselves, the candidates, their policies, how they used the web to fuel the debate and provide a platform for discussion and argument. And I feel that the social media was used quite differently, more intensely perhaps than last time. And there are some implications to that. These days, people trust traditional news sites and news outlets far less than they do with their friends and their families. So when you go and when you share something on social media, the act of actually sharing it is becoming more of a verification process. So you're verifying that you approve of this message, or if you're in total disgust and you want to shame an article or a video or whatever, then you're voicing that opinion. But the act of actually sharing it is more of a verification process, that you have seen it, read it, and either approve or disapprove it. And so when it gets shared to the friends on Facebook, those friends will then pick that up and then see that their friend has shared that, and therefore that there is that element of trust. You know, it must be true because such and such down the road says it is, and that level of trust is far greater than just landing on a news site and reading the article, because that hasn't been approved by or disproved by your friend down the road, right? And when I say down the road, we all know that that's not true, because with social media you can have friends all over the place, right? All over the world, and the more people who share an article, the more times you see it, the more you start to believe it, right? Or disbelieve it if you're trying to make fun of something or disprove something. You again would share the article with the note in the context that you don't believe it. But the two ends of the spectrum are heightened because of that sharing process, right? That becomes more of like a rubber stamp, that you know such and such has shared this, and I trust them, and I trust them far more than the actual article itself, right? Now these candidates knew this, and you know they're not stupid. That they used the social media as a means of pushing and provoking and fueling the discussion far more than they would do with the traditional campaigns. So social media was used far more than, say, TV adverts and newspaper articles and radio and all of that stuff. In fact, social media this time around was more of a driving force. So the news articles, most of them were written around the tweets and around the statuses that these candidates would put out, and so rather than a result of an article, it becomes the driving force. So, and these tweets and these Facebook messages were done in such a suggestive way. So instead of actually outlining your policies and sending fact, right, giving fact, you're making suggestions, and because you're not actually 100% committing, it's just a suggestion, it's a possibility. You're opening the news agencies would grab hold of that suggestion and then start speculating on what that could possibly mean. And so you are essentially creating the moment, right? You're creating the news moment, and it's then up to the news agencies to then grab hold of that and ride that wave, that moment, and try and work out what that suggestion actually means, rather than, this is a fact and this is, this is the truth. So, and also a very clever thing that these guys were doing was, because these are only suggestions, aren't commitments, it's very easy for them to then walk away from this and say, well, in fact, that was just, I didn't actually say that I would go and do this. I just suggested that I possibly could go in that direction, but I didn't actually say it would. Very clever. So you had a different news cycle than perhaps the last few times, because the news started from the tweet or the status, and then that would then get shared out, and the news articles would then write articles about that thing. So you start off with very low effort, right? So a tweet is only 140 odd characters, so it's not like you had to have a big team of people who write articles, and the copywriters, and the you don't have to produce a video or anything. You just wrote 140 odd characters, and then allowed that to be shared out by the masses, right? And then the news teams would then write articles around that. So that was very different from how perhaps it used to be. Now, I'm not saying that the traditional manner of campaigning will go, because these candidates themselves were brands, right? So they had the following already before they put their hat in the ring. They were able to utilize their celebrity status, for better of a word, to promote themselves and their brand and their position, in a very clever way. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave the web and the web development? What will happen in the next for the next one? What should happen? Well, people are starting to suggest that a lot of these things. Another point I should make is a lot of these suggestions are meant for false articles. So articles that were full of lies and full of stuff that just didn't hold any honest ground, right? So there's an argument that Facebook and Twitter and the other social media outlets should have a level of responsibility based on the content that they allow to be shared. Okay, because some of this content was just fabricated and just didn't hold true, right? So should it be up to Facebook or Twitter to be responsible for that? Is that do they have any ownership of the content? Yes, they do. They have ownership of the content. It's part of their policy, but it doesn't mean that they are responsible for your opinion or your decision to like it or not like it. There were a few things that happened that possibly didn't happen last time, and that was like there was more fact-checking utilities. So this year, 2016, there was a lot of bots, the automated bot thing, Bubble. I wouldn't say Bubble, but there was more bots, especially on Twitter, that you could have conversations with, and they could do some intelligent stuff, right? Or they can do some intelligent stuff. I suppose you could argue that Siri and Google Now are bots because you can talk to them and then they can decipher what you say and give you some information based on the context of where you are, as well as what you've asked for previously. But these bots in this context in the election were fact-checking bots, so they would go and fact-check what the candidates were saying. Did they work? Not greatly. Do I think they're going to get better? Yes, I do. I believe they will, but it's very difficult to fact check suggestion and so forth. Do I think it's Facebook's responsibility to filter out lies and deceitful content? I'm not really. I think that's a dangerous ground to get in, because if they start having that level of responsibility, then it's very easy for them to dictate the content and dictate the flow on your feed, and that might, that's quite a grey area. I do think, though, that it would be nice to have an independent verification process. So some sort of verification that can check, some independent organization or party or whatever that checks articles and gives them a score, a validation score, an honesty score, perhaps. However, that's extremely difficult for this suggestive stuff, because it's a subjective thing, right? So it's an opinion. You can't really put that through a fact checking utility. I just think it's down to the user more. They should be under the it's up to them to read the full article, and I don't mean just read the bloody headline, because that's pointless. If you just read the headline, then it's just clickbait, and you get sucked into that machine, and you are just a cog in that machine. You got to read the full article. You've got to formulate your own opinion, and you have to be able to take a stance of not actually sharing it or not actually reacting to it. Because what people don't understand is that the reactions that you have to these things, because Facebook has the ability to react to a status in a negative and a positive way, but in doing so, you are still fueling that. You're still promoting that in a sort of an indirect way, right? Because the other people will be notified that you've reacted in a different type of manner. There is a Facebook state. There is a reaction that everybody can do, and that is to not react. As in, if you don't like it, don't share it, don't read it. Anyway, this is turning into more of a rant than talking about the web side of things. For that, I guess there's implications for scalability and security, because these tweets are obviously extremely popular, and it just needs, there was this thing when Stephen Fry would tweet a link and take a website down because he was so popular back in the day. So there is this ever need to have a scalability on these things, especially if one of these candidates were to tweet out a link. I'll be interested to know what you guys think about what might happen in the next election in terms of social media and the web, and whether or not we're actually moving away from traditional media permanently in terms of the campaign. Whether the emphasis on the TV ads are, whether those are going to happen as often as they used to. It's quite interesting because there's for Christmas there's more emphasis on the TV ads that gets shared by social media quite a lot. I do feel, however, that it all kind of centered around the types of candidates that were running this time, because they are themselves they do have a celebrity appeal to them, and therefore they had their followers, whereas with the other candidates they didn't necessarily have the amount of followers, so they didn't have the amount of traction that the other girls had. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. If you've got any comments, do leave them in the comment section below. If not, then please like and share this video. I'm self-promoting, so speak to you all again soon. Thank you. Bye.